This podcast is sponsored by the Fireman Moving Company. The Fireman Moving Company is the official moving company of WKU Athletics. Not only can they be trusted to move all the coaches in and out of Western, but they can move you anywhere nationwide. The Fireman Moving Company is owned and operated by firemen and is founded by WKU alumni. If you are looking to move sometime soon, give them a call at 270-791-1755 and get yourself a free quote. Welcome to Topper Talk, your number one Western Kentucky athletics podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Moffitt, and I'm joined by co-host Tyler Bailey. Hilltopper Nation, whether it's happening on the hill or on the road, grab those red towels, stand up and cheer, because it's up next on Topper Talk. All right, welcome back, and thank you for downloading and listening to another episode of the Topper Talk podcast. We are the official podcast of the Red Towel Trust Collective, and we are a proud member of the College Huddle podcast community. As always, make sure you're following us on all of our social media platforms. Head on over to our YouTube channel. Make sure you're subscribed over there and getting all the latest updates and episodes. We sure would appreciate that. I've got Tyler here with me, man. We've got a long and good and detailed episode to dive into, man. You ready to get into it?
Yeah, I am, man. I'd like to start off first by saying hope everybody had a Merry Christmas and also a Happy New Year. And let's go into this year kicking ass Western.
Yeah, absolutely. As we're recording late Wednesday night on January 1st, it is our first episode of the year, and I echo those sentiments. I hope that everyone had a fantastic Christmas and also a happy and safe New Year's. But we have got some Red Towel wrap up to dive into, which catches us up with all of our WKU athletics we've missed since we last recorded, and as always, is brought to us by Trent Bedding Company.
Don't forget your headboards, pillows, and your sheets. We got everything you need for a good night's sleep. Number one on the same check, best of Bowling Green.
All right. Hey! Twins, full, queen and king. Mattresses for anything. Come and pick it out and we can bring it to your house. Have you sleeping real good before the weekend's out. Trent Bedding. It's just like a mattress store. Hey.
Boy, I wish I could have listened to that song after the Michigan game. But jumping into it first, we got some coaching news. Jason Barnes, he was named WKU wide receiver coach, previously coached at UNCC, and former wide receiver coach Zach Mizell is now at Georgia Southern. Coach Helton, he agreed to a new 4-year contract. Details are not yet known. And Chad Staggs named DC at East Tennessee State University. He formerly helped with the defensive backs.
Yeah, I heard Reed in the background. He wasn't happy about one of those. I'm not going to guess which one it was, but yeah, Jason Barnes named our new wide receiver coach. I think that's pretty exciting from what I've seen on him. Played in the NFL, played in the UFL, has already helped bring a recruit over. And obviously the hiring of him kind of signaled that the former wide receiver coach Zach Mizell had moved on and is at Georgia Southern now. The Coach Helton contract, renewed a 4-year agreement. Don't know, the exact numbers or details or buyout or anything with that, but that definitely caused a little stir up in Hilltopper Nation. If you're following along on the message boards or on Twitter, there was definitely a lot of chatter about that. And then one of our assistants with the defensive backs and nickelbacks, Chad Staggs, got a promotion, got a chance to go be the defensive coordinator at East Tennessee. So congratulations to him for that opportunity.
All right, so some more. You got Devon Brown and Davis Merritt. They're named defensive coordinator and co-defensive coordinator. Coastal Carolina hired Drew Hollinshead as offensive coordinator, and WKU hired ACU's Rick Bowie as QB coach and play caller.
Yeah, so the first one, obviously, last episode we talked about Tyson Summers moving on and going to Colorado State to be the defensive coordinator there. Had been here for a few years, had led us to a pretty good defense. And we had a search that went on, looking for his replacement. But we also had some young guys on staff that kind of proved and, interviewed and put their name in the hat and are getting that opportunity. And Devon Brown is a highly thought of young coach in our system. Same with Davis Merritt. Both of those guys stepping up are going to be defensive coordinator and co-defensive coordinator. Devon Brown will be the one calling the defensive plays, but I'm sure that game planning will be assisted by Davis Merritt in that co-role. And then Coastal Carolina hiring Drew Hollingshead to be their offensive coordinator. I think the writing was just kind of on the wall with the last couple of years. Kind of bumping him down to co-OC, and bringing in Will Friend last year. And he had interviewed at a couple other places this offseason. So congratulations to him. You'll get a fresh start going over to Myrtle Beach. I'm sure that'll be a fun location to be coaching at. And then the big news, hiring Abilene Christian's Rick Bowie to be the quarterback coach and the primary play caller is big news for a couple reasons. One, because they had a really good offense there at Abilene Christian. They averaged over 33 points a game, 400 yards per game. And they also had a pretty good quarterback that is now in the transfer portal, and Maverick McIver. He has a WKU offer. That offer went out, I think it was December 14th. He has been on campus. He's visited and has, is weighing his options at this point. He's obviously a highly sought after commodity on the market. He was one of the leaders passing there at the FCS level. So, I don't know if he's going to come over, but I think hiring his former quarterback coach and offensive coordinator to come here to Western definitely doesn't hurt. We've seen that recipe work here before with Kitley and Zappy. So not saying this is what that is, but it could be definitely the 2.0 version of that. So I'm excited to see, what comes of it.
All right, and we got some portal news and commitments. Defensive line Jaden Gray, he's a transfer from La Tech. He committed to Western. Linebacker Montrez Smith, he's a transfer in from Duke. Wide receiver Fonzie Smith committed to WKU, previously committed to UNCC. Lavelle Wright, he's a transfer running back from Austin P. Offensive line Jameel Jackson committed to WKU. He's a transfer from Central Michigan. And FSU transfer tight end Jackson West, he committed to WKU.
Yeah, so some interesting names on that list. Somebody in conference, Jaden Gray coming over from Louisiana Tech is always interesting. The Duke program, not really known as a football program, but they have definitely gotten better. So grabbing a linebacker from there, I'm not mad about. I mentioned earlier about a player coming over with Jason Barnes. Fonzie Smith is a high school commit. He's a class of 25 commit. And it was previously committed to his former school at UNC Charlotte and decommitted there after Barnes left, and is now committed to Western Kentucky. So excited about him and what he might bring to the program. Lavelle Wright, running back from Austin P, formerly was at UK. So that's, an SEC running back coming over. And then the offensive lineman, Bernardi has just been doing absolute work with these offensive lineman commits. And then getting a tight end commit from Florida State. Even though he doesn't have a lot of playing time and a lot of stats, you're still talking about a P4 ACC guy that has to obviously have some skill and some potential that maybe just was being, overshadowed or over recruited there at Florida State. Bring him in here for a year or two, whatever kind of eligibility he has left, and just, see what he can contribute. So I'm excited for all those additions.
All right, now we got two names that withdrew from the portal: wide receiver Musa Berry and offensive line Marshall Jackson. Both of them pulled their names out of the portal. Linebacker Kylan Goodry, he entered the portal. Wide receiver Bryce Childress also entered the portal. And offensive line Rodney Newsom, he committed to South Carolina.
Yeah, I like to see those guys take their name out. Musa Berry put out the graphic, said he's ready to run it back. Same with Marshall Jackson. It's always nice to have guys that are already familiar with the system. I think that's one of the most important parts of recruiting is re-recruiting your own guys, because the portal is never going to go away. This is going to be a yearly thing where you just have a huge wave of guys put their name in there just to see what kind of outside interest they get, what their value is, what their options are. And then I'm always confident that a good number of those guys are going to return and still be with our program for the following year. So I'm excited to see that Musa Berry and Marshall Jackson both decide to come back. I think there will be several more on the remaining list that are uncommitted. Then Kylan Guidry, entering the portal. He is exercising the new JUCO rule, where if you had a JUCO year and he was a senior this year, he's exercising that extra year of eligibility, testing the portal. Again, he's not gone; he could come back, but he definitely will be sought after. He was a solid player here. And then Bryce Childress as well, transferred in this last year, didn't get a lot of playing time or targets here. So I don't fault those guys for checking out their options. And then Rodney Newsome, big guy, committing to the SEC again. Best of luck to all those guys, and who knows, maybe we'll see one or two of them come back.
And now we're going to talk about the players who has entered their names into the NFL draft. Starting off with defensive back Keyshawn Swanson, he declared for the draft. Devontae Matthews also declared. Linebacker Terrence Ellis, he declared, and linebacker Sebastian Benjamin. They have all declared for the draft.
Yeah, as of now, we're up to 7 Hilltoppers that have declared for the draft. I think the only one that had eligibility left was Upton Stout. I think he could have come back if he wanted to, eligibility wise, but I think he has enough film and enough stats out there now that he's probably going to have some NFL interest. Has that Senior Bowl invite. I'm sure he'll be at the combine as well. So excited for all those guys and their opportunity to put their name in the hat and potentially get drafted, or get an undrafted free agent deal, or end up in the UFL, or just wherever that may lead. At one way or another, they're going to have an opportunity to be a pro top.
And now we're going to talk about some other sports. Volleyball player, outside hitter Kaylee Cox, she was named on volleyballmag.com honorable All-American.
Yeah, just add it to the list of the postseason accolades for her. I think last episode we talked about her having another honorable. It was an AVCA honorable mention All-American award, and now this time she's getting the volleyballmag.com honorable mention All-American award. So definitely just deserved accolades for a great season and a great career for a great player that we had in Kaylee Cox.
And speaking of volleyball, they have a signee, Kate Rush. She participated in the Under Armour All-American match. Yeah,
that's a high school senior currently that's committed and signed to play here at Western next year. So it's nice to see that we have an All-American signed and ready to play for us. That's exciting for her. And then obviously exciting for us that she'll be coming over and joining our team next year. So, we always say it every year. Hudson doesn't rebuild; he just reloads, and this is just further evidence of that. He just keeps bringing in talent and getting them here to the Hill.
And moving on to the ladies golf, Katie Craig, she finished tied for 13th in the Patriot All-American Open. She was representing Airman First Class Antoine Holt.
Yeah, really cool tournament that she got to be a part of. That was announced several weeks ago that she had accepted her bid and invitation to be there. I didn't know a lot about it till I was following along, keeping up with the opening ceremonies for it, and then the scoring as the 3 rounds went along. She basically was top 10 the entire time. Finished one, she dropped a stroke in the last round and ended up tied for 13th. But I thought it was pretty cool that they were honoring, and each of the players were representing a fallen soldier or military person, and just got to know their story, tell their story. If you follow her on Instagram, she posted a whole big long thing telling you about his service, when he died in action, and just a little bit about him as a person, and how his family would like him to be remembered. So I thought that was a pretty awesome tournament, and pretty awesome that she got to represent him, and then she also represented Western Kentucky well with a good finish.
And then we're going Alexis Meade. She was named Conference USA Co-Player of the Week after their Maui trip.
Yeah, always nice to see our student athletes getting those Player of the Week awards. And Alexis obviously is a solid player for us. The women's basketball team, as we've talked about each game, has just kind of been on fire. I think they were 1-1 in their trip to Maui, but have had a really good non-conference slate. Actually, the best non-conference record in Conference USA. If I'm not mistaken, I think they're 9-4. So had a really good start to the season. Their conference play is just right around the corner, just like the men's is that we'll be talking about here shortly. But very excited for her and a deserved award for her play this last week.
And with that, that concludes Red Towel Wrap Up. Moth, back to you.
Yeah, always good stuff. The portal and the coaching news, all that stuff is kind of dominating that segment for now. Football obviously wrapping up, but there's still roster movement and coaching movement. But excited to dive into a little bit of basketball stuff as well, because we're 13 games through the season now, about a third of the way through the season. Just finished up non-conference play with a recent game, a forgettable game, I should say, at Michigan that turned into a really lopsided loss. We concluded out of conference play with a 9-4 record in what is Coach Hank Plona's first season. Those 4 losses came to Wichita State, Grand Canyon, Kentucky, and Michigan. Then our wins, I'm just going to list the best wins. Our best win metric-wise is against Lipscomb. Then we've also beaten Marshall, Evansville, and then we beat Murray State. I think, so far through the non-conference schedule and just this first little small window of looking at how the season's going to go, to me, one of the biggest storylines is, to start the season, we found out about the Tegan Moore injury and the fact that he was probably going to be out for several weeks. And then a couple weeks into the season, he made that Instagram post saying he was just going to redshirt for the year to focus on his recovery and getting back to the court and getting healthy for next season. Then we've also have dealt with some other injuries on the team as well. We've had Babacar Fai, who's missed a couple games now. Christian Landers missed a couple games, and then also Blaze Keita. So what is a really deep roster, when we talked about it in the preseason, I think we have 18 members on the roster, but we're currently missing, I think it is 6 guys that just aren't playing. They aren't available due to injury. I definitely think that has affected our play so far in the non-conference. And then I think another one of the storylines that I know we'll talk about a little bit later is the emergence of Julius Thetford as kind of that second scoring option. He's been a pleasant surprise. Was a late addition to the recruiting class out of Memphis. Had a good, solid season on his AAU team. I think he previously was committed to Missouri State, if I recall correctly. They had a coaching change. They fired their coach. He, reopened his recruiting and landed with us. And he has really been a solid kind of Robin to Don McHenry's Batman. And I'm really glad that he's here. And obviously, I look forward to watching him grow as the season goes, because he just plays with the confidence that the shot's going in. He's going to take the shot, and they do a lot of times. So I'm glad to see it. And then I also want to talk about Don McHenry and just the streak he's been on the last 3 or 4 games. I mean, this guy has been scoring, 28, 29 points a game after kind of a slow start to the season. It seemed like those first few games, other guys were stepping up, which isn't a terrible thing. Don didn't have to lead the way and doesn't have to lead the way every single night. You'd prefer to have 2, 3, 4 guys that can step up and be that guy. But Don's season, I think it's safe to say it started a little bit slower than what we're used to seeing from Don McHenry. But these last 3 or 4 games, I mean, he has just turned it on, been unstoppable. He takes over games at times. And it's just really fun to watch. That's really what we expected when he came back and rallied around, Coach Plona getting that promotion to head coach and just getting the chance to be the leader of this team again. Really excited for Don and just showing why he's one of the best players in this conference and possibly even in the nation. He's plays with a chip on his shoulder. I think you hear Hank talk about that a lot, that he wants to show he can compete, and he's done that at every level he's been at, whether it's JUCO or now whether it's Division I basketball in Conference USA. He's a competitor, and I really like his play. Tyler, I'm gonna let you jump in real quick. Just kind of talk about your overview, your thoughts of the non-conference season, and some of these players and injuries that we've gotten to see and watch so far.
Well, this season, kind of reminds me of the last out of conference. Last season we lost to like Canassus and UNC Asheville when we played up there in Canada. We still lost Wichita State. So I know people are kind of down on the team right now because I mean we did get stomped by Michigan. We didn't play our best game, but last season in the out of conference it was kind of soft, if you would. But this year, you're right. You got Don McHenry. He had a slow start. He's coming on like gangbusters. He's had at least one ESPN top 10 play, or like number 3 top 10 play of the day. And Julius Thedford, surprise. He came in, he made his name, and he's really playing great. Braxton Bayless, he's another player that had a slow start to the schedule or the slow start to the season. And here lately, he's starting to add to instead of take away. It does suck whenever you lose so many players to injury. Tegan Moore, that was a player that I was really looking forward to seeing how he has progressed, but we're going to wait another year. You look at Babacar, that happy surprise. If you'd have told me at the end of last year that he was going to be like the number 2 scorer on the team, I don't think I'd believe you. But he came out and he has played hard. I can't wait for him to come back. To be honest, we really need him because we are down 2 centers, or at least 2 post players, 2 forwards, and him and Blaze and Leroy. I really want him to turn a corner and start putting more onto the box score. I mean, he's averaging 1.3 rebounds a game, and dude, you're 6'11", 250 pounds. You really need to start playing your size, man. I mean, go out and do great things. I'm not trying to bash on you, but we really need you right now because you're really the only post player that we have. The loss to Kentucky, I thought we played good. I mean, we cut it down to within 7 a few times. I don't think the final score was a indicative of how that game was played. But just because they got to the free throw line so many times, I believe they got some friendly whistles, kind of like Michigan did. Michigan went to the free throw line 30-some times. Grand Canyon, that game just got away from us. I feel like if we played them here, it'd been a different outcome. Wichita State, that's just a tough team. Michigan, I really want to forget that game. And then the wins, I didn't know. I think this was the first time in how many years that Lipscomb has played at Western. I thought it would have been sooner, but it's been a really long time. And I think that game needs to be played some more. I know a lot of people talking about Evansville used to be a real big competitor to us. That's another good win. Marshall, always good to get a win versus them because piss on you, Marshall. And then Murray State, I mean, that we won that game, but I think we lost that war because in that game, that's when Christian Lander and Babacar both went out with injury. I'm not saying I would trade the win to get them back, but I really wish they wouldn't have been out for so long because when you're down 2 starters and, I mean, you got so many more injuries on the team, you really need everybody you can get. But, I think this out of conference schedule went good. like I said, I like the teams that we played. I felt like it was a step up from last year's, but I mean, I feel like people are going to have that bad taste of that Michigan loss in their mouth. And yes, it sucks, but at the end of the day, you got to get over it because you can't go back and change it. We wish we could. We played terrible. We didn't shoot good, and Michigan was just unconscious from the 3. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely good thoughts. I want to dive in and talk a little bit more about this non-conference season and this team, and even the rest of Conference USA. Just kind of an overall look at the overall strength of the conference. But I think before we do that, I want to dive in. I want to talk a little bit about last year's team before we talk about this year's team. I think you can't talk about one without the other. As we all know, Steve Lutz came in last year and took us back to the tournament after a really long drought, which was super exciting for us as fans. You and I were there in Huntsville, man. It was amazing. It was great that we got back to the tournament, and that's all he's done. 2 years at Corpus Christi, tournament appearances, his 1 year here, tournament appearance. It was great to end that drought, but it also opened the door for him getting poached and Oklahoma State coming in, after that conference run and offering him a job that he ultimately took. Can't blame him. But when that happened, it led directly to assistant coach Hank Plona with his resume of success at the JUCO level, being the targeted guy. The players rallied around him, and he was able to keep most of the roster intact after they officially promoted him to the head coaching position, which is really rare in today's, the NIL world, the transfer portal world. The fact that we basically only lost Brandon Newman and Dante Allen to the transfer portal really says a lot, in my opinion, to what the guys that stayed here think about Coach Plona. So I guess I just want to get your thoughts real quick on just quick at a glance. What were your thoughts on the Steve Lutz season and now how the promotion of Hank Plona has worked out so far through, 13 games and this 9-4 record that we currently have?
Well, I mean, really, Lutz's season, it was kind of up and down. We finished the conference slate 8-8. I think we finished overall like 22-12. But he really got the team firing on all cylinders there at the end of the season, right when you need him to. I mean, hats off to Lutz. I hope he does great things. He was great for Western. You're right. Whenever we was down there and we at the tournament, we watched them play in the championship game. I mean, that was pretty much a home game, and it was great to see Western fans buy into that. Then you move onto the Hank era, the Plona era, and I think it is a great hire because if you look at his players, I mean, we only lost two out of a whole team. If he wasn't a good hire and he's not who the players want to stay with, we would have to start over with a whole new roster. But we don't, and we didn't. And I mean, I think that just says tons about how good of a coach and what kind of a guy he really is. And you're right, through the NIL transfer portal world, it's amazing we only lost two. But I think Hank has a way of talking to the players because he is a fairly younger guy. He can relate to them, and I mean, really, he's a player's coach, and I'm thrilled that we got him, and hopefully he can come into the conference schedule, and we can finish better than 8-8.
Yeah, I think what you said, Hank Plona having good relationships with players. If you don't follow him on Instagram, if you're listening and you don't follow him on Instagram, search his name, Hank Plona, WKU, whatever it is, and follow him on Instagram. And you'll see that oftentimes his story is him sharing successful things that former players of his has done. If you hear him talk about his time at Indian Hills, how many players he sent to Division I or to pros, to overseas. He has really good relationships and is really proud of those ex-players that used to play for him. And obviously we've got several of them on our own roster here who've joined him and also enjoy playing for him. But it just shows what kind of person and what kind of coach he is, that when he's done coaching you, he doesn't just forget about you and push you to the side. He's still keeping up with you, still cheering for you, and hoping for your success. And I think that kind of coach and that kind of relationship builder is really going to help him in the future when he's recruiting targets, especially at the JUCO level, guys that have college tape and film and college ready bodies that can come in and make an impact immediately, like we've seen with Don, with Baba, with Enoch. I think that's really going to help. I think he's almost kind of the perfect coach to lead our program, quite frankly, in the transfer portal and NIL world. He did it at the JUCO level for 8+ years and was really successful. And at the JUCO level, you're turning that roster over every 2 years. Hopefully those guys are getting their degrees there and going on and playing somewhere better. That's just the nature of that beast. And now in college athletics as a whole, football, basketball, whatever it is, you're almost rebuilding your roster every single year. So he's, in my opinion, he's the perfect hire. A lot of people are really against it. They thought we should have done a broader search. A lot of the usual suspect names were out there. We should go talk to these guys and bring them in. But I think Hank has definitely shown he's up to the task. I'm not down on the Michigan loss. I think a lot of people have a really bad taste in their mouth from that being the last game and getting beat by 40+. We went in there down 2 starters, including our big man. And we went in there and Michigan shot the best game of their season, quite frankly. They're not going to make 19 threes in a game again this year. That's their program record. They tied it. They had their best game and we just had an average game. We were going to have to go in there and shoot the lights out from 3 and them have a below average game for us to have a chance, to keep it within, I think the spread was 18.5. To keep it within that, we were going to have to play a really good game and probably need to be at full health and full strength, but it just wasn't the cards. Whether you lose by 1 or you lose by 100, a loss is a loss, quite frankly. And there's still plenty ahead of us that can be accomplished this season. And we talked about it earlier. This year's team has been just absolutely marred with injuries. We got, Terrian Murdoch that's still on the bench, who was here last year and sat out the whole year, sitting out this year again. Freshman Cade Unsold had to have surgery, I believe, before the season. He's out for this whole season. Then we have already talked about Teagan missing this whole season. Christian Landers missed a chunk of games now. We're hoping he's coming back for conference play starting tomorrow against Liberty. And then also Babacar Faye, our one returning big, along with Blaze Keita. It's rough to be down that many bodies and hope to compete, but we still have a 9-4 record. And easily could have won that Grand Canyon game. That was a last-second layup. We lost that game. We easily could be 10-3. Like you said, the UK game, even though the score looks a little lopsided, we competed really well. We played a really good game against them. The Michigan game, I feel like if we were at full health, it probably would have been maybe even still a loss. But I think it would definitely been more competitive and more respectable. So, what's your take so far on this year's team through non-conference play, even with all those injuries?
I think the team is really well. We need more players because Hank is trying to play a really fast tempo of ball. He really likes to get down there and put up a quick shot or a few passes and then shot. And to do that, you need a lot of bodies to be able to give players rest. I think. I'm hopefully Terrion Murdoch will come back. Will come be able to play next year. When we get Teagan Moore back and Cade Unsold and all of them, and hopefully that will be exciting to see because Cade's like a 6'5" freshman, and he's a local boy, plays good, played good in high school. I am excited to see him come in. But we need Babacar back. We need Lander back. Lander is a 3-point shooter, and that's one thing this team lacks. We're streaky from the 3-point shot. That's not a secret. You look at Michigan, I think we hit only 5 or something. Against UK, we didn't hit a big number of them. I think it was still in the single digits. So we need as many 3-point shooters as we can get out there. And Babacar kind of adds that too. He's a big man, but he will sit out there and shoot, maybe 1 3 a game. So he keeps, typically 1 3 a game whenever he gets up there at the top of the key. so he can keep, the opposing big man honest. But I feel like through the non-conference, this team has played good overall. Like I said, we just need more bodies to be able to keep up the fast tempo.
Yeah, I want to look at a little bit more of Conference USA as a whole. We really, as a conference, have had a really good non-conference showing. There's currently only one team that's below a 500 record. That's FIU. Looking at you guys, Liberty and Louisiana Tech are both in the Kim Palm top 100 teams. And then we have three that are just outside of it in the top 120, 130, with ourselves, Sam Houston, and MTSU just outside of that top 100. And also, Conference USA has currently, as we record, we've leapfrogged. We've been ahead of the American Conference for a couple weeks now in conference rankings, which hasn't happened for a few years. So just really like to see that that high tide raising all boats, as you say. The conference itself has gone through a lot of just changes with teams that have left. We've added teams, didn't know what we were getting, but we've had some teams, Liberty, Sam Houston, Jacksonville State. We've had teams that have added to and have been good quality opponents and are performing well, quite frankly. So, Tyler, what would you say about the overall strength of Conference USA so far this year through non-conference play?
I mean, I know some people will probably say it's a surprise, but if you look at what, Liberty has historically put out there, or at least the last few years put out there on the floor, Middle Tennessee, La Tech, they're all teams who typically put a good product out on the floor year in, year out. I'm glad that we finally surpassed the American Conference. You mentioned FAU or FIU. That's always one of our Achilles' heels to win down there. That's just a tough place for us to win, even though they are 6-7 right now, the last place in Conference USA. That's going to be a good game. Jacksonville State. Last year they had Kiki Tandy. This year they got a new version of Kiki, and they got some more players that they're relying on to add buckets in. UTEP, they have last few years they put a good team out there on the floor. So really, it's not a surprise to me because Conference USA, a lot of people call it a weak conference, but it is picking itself up, and I'm thrilled by that because it is true. A high tide raises every ship, and we need. I'm hoping this is a tough conference. Hopefully, it's a bulldog fight. Just so I know we're probably going to typically be a one bid league, but if we keep getting people higher in the Ken Palm rankings, that's only going to make us look better.
I agree. I think one thing we all saw last year was that there was a lot of parity in Conference USA, and there was a lot of, basically the home teams were winning most of the games. And if I recall correctly, there was a point in time in the season where we were the only team in Conference USA that had a winning record on the road. I'm assuming that finished out even when we finished 8-8, but it's one of those years just looking at the current standings. And when you look at those standings, you can see the home and away splits right beside that. Almost every single team is really strong at home, and then 50-50 on the road. And we've heard it for a long time, even when going back to Rick Stansberry being here. He said if you win all your home games and you split your road games, can win 50% of those, you're going to put yourself in position to win a championship. And I think that's what all the teams, the good teams in Conference USA, that top 5 or 6 cluster, are going to be looking to do is hold and serve at home, and then winning as many, trying to steal as many on the road as they can get. So Tyler, who do you think are going to be, that top, 2-3 teams to look out for in conference play this season?
Well, I think the top 3 teams, or top really 4 teams right now, with Liberty, La Tech, UTEP, Middle Tennessee's typically good. And then you add us in there, Jacksonville State. They might be able to turn it around. Ray Harper may be down there cooking something up in the kitchen. Sam Houston typically pretty good team. Do I think they could come out and win conference? I don't. Florida International, nope. Kennesaw State, that's another dark horse that we don't rightly know much about. You know, they're 7-6 or 8-5 right now, but it's they're the newcomers. They could come out here and surprise the whole conference. But I think if you're looking at it, you know, I'm going to include Western in that, but I think Liberty, La Tech, and I hate to say it, but MTSU. I think those will be your 4 teams that have a shot at winning conference this year.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think Liberty has done a really good job. Their record, I think they're 12-1 if I'm not mistaken. I don't have their record in front of me, but their 12-1 record is a little bit of fool's gold. I feel like I think they have the same scheduling philosophy in basketball as they do in football, where they don't schedule anybody tough. So looks really good on paper. They're 12-1. Congratulations, you won the game you're supposed to win. But they've also played a couple teams on there that I've never heard of. Didn't even know the women's college up the road played basketball, but they beat them. So, but they've done a good job at retooling their roster, have scheduled smart, and have won their games 12-1. I also think Louisiana Tech is going to be a tough game. They returned their big guy, Daniel Bacho, preseason player of the year coming into this season. He's just a really solid player. He's one of those that I was just really surprised to see that they were able to hold on to him. But him coming back, he's going to be a force whenever we have to play, that home and away game with them. And then I'm also right there with you. Middle Tennessee has looked a lot better this year. They, last year they were really injured. They lost 2 starters, kind of similar to us this year. They lost 2 starters really early in the season, which at this point we're down 3 starters. And they just kind of tanked and flailed through the season. And they did get better as the season progressed. And we all remember that, crazy should have been a technical timeout, jump ball, whatever you want to call it in Murfreesboro. We were there watching it live. But Middle Tennessee has kind of rebounded. Nick McDevitt and their squad looking a lot better. As long as they can stay healthy, I think they're going to be pretty good. And then I'm right there with you, including us, kind of in that group of that 4 or 5 teams that can compete for the championship. Now I think we're going to have to get healthy. We can't be down Christian Lander and Babacar for many more games and not fall behind in the conference standings real quick with conference play starting tomorrow. So I think it's going to be tough. It's going to be competitive. It's going to be really fun just through what we've seen so far in non-conference play. And I guess that kind of leads us right into the last question, kind of rounding out the just overview of Conference USA. How do you see us fitting in competitively in 2025? And what do we, Western Kentucky, need to do to win the conference this year?
Well, I think we're going to be where we typically always are, up there towards the top. I think we have some of the best players in the conference. Maybe our size will affect us because Babacar, he typically is the best post player that we have. Blaze, I would like to see him some more. Leroy, come on, man. Western Kentucky needs you, and I feel like you can do it. I'm hoping you can. I'm not, like I said earlier, I'm not trying to dog on you. I just want you to be the best that you can. I think we have some of the best guards in the conference, and I think the only thing that we really need to work on is our 3-point shooting percentage. I think it's 35 point something right now percent. I'd like to see that. I'd like to see us hit it more consistently because we go through stretches to where, we only in a half, we may hit, maybe 3 3-pointers, but we jack up 15, 17 of them or something, or 10. We definitely need to do better with that. And, I think if we want to win conference, we can't take any games off. We need to be sure, as Rick said, to win all the home games. You split your road games. And I feel like that's going to put us into the right mix right there. And you know what? I am going to say this because I noticed we play Liberty on Thursday, and we kind of have a common team that we both played. Liberty played Seattle at Seattle, only beat them by 2 points. We played Seattle at home, beat them by 14. So, you know, I know some people may be worried about Liberty. I feel like that's going to be an okay game for us. You know, it might come out and surprise me. They may come out and shoot lights out like Michigan, but I feel like that's something that we can handle. But yeah, just keep playing fast, keep playing chaotic defense because we do turn the ball, get them to cough up some balls or get some turnovers, and just be sure to get more consistent on the 3-point.
Now I want to roll into some rapid fire questions about our team. Who do you think has been our best win so far this season?
Oh gosh, I'm going to go with Lipscomb. It's it'd be them or Murray State, but I'm just going to go with Lipscomb on it.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Metric wise, it says it's Lipscomb. They're favored to win their conference. Potentially a tournament team. I enjoy beating Marshall. I enjoy beating Murray State. But competitive wise, I think Lipscomb was probably the best team that we played right there. I think Murray State's not far behind them. I had higher hopes for Marshall. They're also kind of going through a coaching change. It's the first year with their coach there at Western or at Marshall rather. Season so far hasn't panned out as well for them as what they'd like to see. But still, again, like you said, glad we beat them. We play them again next year. I hope we return that favor again next year in Huntington. What do you think has been our toughest loss or our worst loss so far in non-conference play?
Oh gosh. I guess just based on how recent it was and the amount of points we lost by the Michigan. But I mean, that's a tough one too because it would have been lovely to beat UK up there at Rep Arena, and we could have, but the game just slipped away from us. Wichita State, first game of the season. That's another tough one to lose. We were both there watching it. They had one player that just went off the rails, man. I mean, he was hidden unconsciously. Great player in Grand Canyon on that last second layup, but I will go with Michigan just based on the number of points we lost by and how poorly we shot.
Yeah, I'm going to kind of agree with two of those. I think the Grand Canyon game, I would love to have it back. We had the lead late in that game and had every opportunity to win that game, but just didn't execute down the stretch. And quite frankly, Grand Canyon did. Hated losing that one. That would have been a solid victory. And then obviously the most recent one, that the 46 point, whatever it was, shellacking to Michigan up in Ann Arbor just a few days ago. It is what it is at this point. I think we've all have seen it. We've talked about it. If you've been on the message boards or on Twitter, you've seen all the negativity that's resulted from it. But at the end of the day, we were a beat up, depleted roster coming into, quite frankly, was probably a top 25 team that Dusty May has assembled there in Ann Arbor. A really expensive roster, a recognizable face in Vladimir Golden there. All of a sudden stepping out and hitting threes. He wasn't doing that at FAU. Hated to lose the Grand Canyon game the way we did, and I hate to lose that Michigan game by such a margin like we did. Just keeping it close or respectable obviously wouldn't have left near as sour a taste in anybody's mouth. Who would you say is your team MVP?
Man, I'm wanting to say Don. I'm wanting to say Julius, but I'm sitting here looking at Babacar Faye's, his game logs. He's been consistent all season. He really hasn't came in and got a slow start. He hasn't, he's only had 2 games where he ain't scored in double digits. He's gotten a season high 12 rebounds versus Evansville, 6 against Tennessee State, 9 against Murray, 6 against UK, and he still dropped 16 points in on them that game. He started out strong with 28 points against Wichita State, 9 against Grand Canyon, 12 against Campbellsville, 17 against Lipscomb, 9 against Jackson State, 16, 14, 19, 11, and 17. I'm going to have to go personally with Babacar 5. And just because he is aggressive, he is efficient down there in the paint. Do I love seeing Don come in and drop 29, almost close to a 30 burger on people? Yes, I love it, and keep doing it, Don. Julius, come in, keep playing aggressive. But I'm going to go Babacar 5 on this one.
I'm going to go with Don, mainly because Don's still playing, and we don't know what kind of injury window that Babacar is looking at. I've heard knee strain. I've heard out 2-3 weeks. Potentially could be back versus Liberty, but I just don't have a good feeling about it, to be honestly. I think it could be a little bit longer than that. I know we don't need to rush him back and take a chance of him re-injuring or aggravating that. And I have full trust in our medical and training staff to be sure that he's ready before he comes back. But give me Don McHenry. I mean, that man has been the straw stirring the drink the last couple of weeks. He just Don being Don. I enjoy that we've had Tyrone Marshall, Braxton Bayless, Thedford, those guys stepping up. Even Leroy, you talked about Leroy earlier, but he's shown us some serviceable minutes at times. He just needs to be a big that doesn't come in and get in foul trouble and rebound the ball well. We don't need him to score 8 to 12 points. He doesn't need to be what Rodney was last year, but just come in and be a big body that can get rebounds when he's the biggest guy on the court most of the time. So, but give me Don. I think he definitely is the guy we're going to lean on in the immediate future for sure, as we hope Babacar gets healthy real soon. Who do you think is our biggest threat in Conference USA play?
Gosh, I'm probably going to go with I'm going to go Middle Tennessee. It's a rivalry. The 2 games last season were tough, hard fought games. And they typically always get up to place. They may not have won a game all season, but it seems like when they play us, that's when they're going to play their best. That's when they're going to play their hardest. So I'm going to roll with MTSU.
Just to be safe, we probably better make that trip down there to Murfreesboro and hit up Toots again, maybe even twice. I'm down with going pregame and postgame. We'll have to look at the calendar and see when that's coming up. I forget when the trip to Murfreesboro is. That's the one I always try to make, as it's the easiest trip. But yeah, I think they're a threat for sure. I think they're playing a lot better. I think Liberty's up there in that category of they're going to be tough, and we're going to find out real quick tomorrow when we play them tomorrow night. But I'm going to go with Louisiana Tech, and I just think they're the team that you most know what you're getting from them. And I think Daniel Bacho is the main reason for that. And especially at our current state, when we're down Babacar, we're down Blaze Keita, and then we're going to put Leroy on him. He's probably going to get Leroy in foul trouble. And we're going to be down 3 bigs and have to put, Tyrone Marshall on him or just run a zone all game long like we did versus Michigan. And dare them to beat us from 3. So I think the biggest threat and possibly the best team in Conference USA is probably Louisiana Tech. I'd love to be wrong, but I think they're a really solid team year in, year out. We know how tough it is to play there in Ruston. But that's going to be a battle, and I'm looking forward to it, and hopefully we're healthy when it happens. And lastly, Tyler, where do you see WKU finishing this year in Conference USA play?
Well, see, it's a tough one because I'm going to have my big red glasses on. I would love to say we finish, top at the end of it. But, I could see us sliding down to 2nd or 3rd place just based on how hard this conference slate is. And, as you said, with the injury. But I'm going to be optimistic and say 1st place, but I can see us slipping down to 2nd.
I took it one step further and I broke it down because we have 18 conference games. And if you'll look on our notes, our shared notes here, right under there, I think we're going to go 7-2 at home. I think we're mainly going to hold serve. That could easily be 8-1, but I think 7-2 is a respectable home record in conference play. I wouldn't be surprised. And then since we got 9 road games, you can't split 9. So I'm hoping that we're on the positive side like we were last year. We were one of the only teams on the positive side on the road. So if we go 5-4 there, that would put us at a 12-6 overall conference record, which is quite a step up from last year's 8-8, which is an improvement. And with our 9-4 current record in out of conference play, it puts us at 21-10 on the season, another 20 plus win season. And I think if we finish with that type of a conference record, 12-6, I think we're in the top 2. Definitely the top 3. I think it's Liberty, us, and Louisiana Tech. I think it's going to come down to the head-to-head with those guys. And obviously, we start out on the road tomorrow at Liberty. So we might, it's easy to say we might start out behind the 8 ball tomorrow with where the roster stands. If Christian doesn't play, if Baba doesn't play, that's going to be a team that's tough. But with our pace of play and the way we can shoot the 3, if we come out and shoot well on the road, I think we can beat anybody. And that's even without Babacar being on the court. We've seen that the last few games before the Michigan game. We've been respectable without Baba. Sometimes the rebounding is a little tough, a little worrisome. We need Braxton and Tyrone to kind of step up and be those leading rebounders. And even Enoch, he steps up and is a good rebounder for us. But I think between us, Liberty, and La Tech, we're firmly in that top 3. I think Middle's right there close to that top 3. But I think we finish 1 or 2 in the league, in my opinion, with one of those other schools being right there with us. But, man, definitely good to catch up on all the basketball through non-conference play. Conference plays, staring us down now. But this time tomorrow, we'll be either enjoying a victory or getting LU thrown up to us by some of our friends. I don't want to hear or see that. But that's coming up real fast. Our focus, our shift of episodes is going to, now pivot over to the basketball side of things as we do recaps and previews of games. Obviously the football news with the transfer portal, etc., coaching changes that won't slow down as it happens. We'll share it on social media. We'll obviously talk about it on here for the Red Towel wrap up. But just want to follow back up with kind of what we said at the top of the show. It is January 1st. It's 10 p.m. at night as we're recording. I do hope that everyone, since we last recorded, had a enjoyable and fun time for Christmas with their families and friends, however they celebrated, whoever they celebrated with. And the same for their New Year's plans. I hope everybody had fun and was safe and is looking forward to 2025. I hope they're setting goals for themselves on how to improve themselves or their lives, or just things they want to accomplish, whether it's getting to the gym more often or reading more books or being more social, going to more WKU events, whatever that is. I hope each person listening is setting those goals as you turn the calendar over to a new year, and just striving to meet those goals every day and just be the best version of yourself. Because at the end of the day, I think that's what it's all about, is, being a good person, a good friend, a good family member, husband, father, son, whatever you are and whatever you're doing. I hope a new year obviously grants you good health, and the same to your family and loved ones around you. Obviously really looking forward to continuing with this adventure. This is episode 99 as we're recording. Big number, triple digit 100 is right around the corner. So looking forward to that as well, and just many more episodes, and just what everything that comes with this, the all the games, all the players and coaches, etc., that we get a chance to talk to. Really looking forward to that, because I think 2025 is going to be a continued year of growth for us, and just the audience that we reach, the people that follow us and enjoy the content that we put out there. And we enjoy it just as much as they do. When we're at games or we're just out and about in general, or people DM us and say, "Hey, thank you. We enjoy what you're doing." Means the world to us. I know we've been together. We've had somebody stop us and like, "Hey, man, keep doing what you're doing. We really enjoy it." And we just want to echo that back to the people listening. Like, we really enjoy doing it. We're not doing it for fame or for recognition. We're doing it because if one person's listening, if it's just Tyler listening every week we put an episode up, I still have fun. I have a good time with it, and I'm looking forward to continuing this into the new year and whatever it may bring. So, Tyler, hit us with your final words and take us on out.
Man, that your final thought really hit me in the feels, because you're right. It is nice when people come up and say those things to us, or DM us, or just tell us, "Hey, you're right. They appreciate what we're doing." And it does make me feel good. But you're right. This is a labor of love for me, because I'm passionate about Western athletics and Western University. It's something that I would sit and talk to anybody about, even if nobody was listening. But I hope everyone had a great New Year's. People need to think about the people that are down there in New Orleans or Las Vegas, where that truck killed some people, and then maybe an explosion happened at a hotel out there. Just keep those people and their families in your prayers and in your thoughts, because no one needs to start a new year off like that, or that never needs to happen, period. The world's crazy. I hope everybody stays safe. I hope everybody does work on themselves and make themselves the best version of you. And that is a great New Year's resolution. More people come to WKU home basketball and football games. Let's fill the stands up. Let's get the people. Let's get butts in seats, and let these players know that we appreciate them. Right now, sickness is going through my household. Reed not feeling real well. Wife ain't feeling real well. I'm trying to stay healthy, not getting much sleep, but hey, that's part of it. But yeah, let's go rock 2025. Let's go be the best that we can be, and let's go kick some ass, like I said earlier. And with that, Moth, who has it better than us?
Nobody, buddy. You know it.
Go Tops, y'all.
Go Tops. Later, guys.
See you.